Andor Season 1 is different from the rest of Star Wars, and if you haven't seen the show, you should. If you have Disney Plus, then I recommend you go and watch the show, because I've heard the viewership of the show is very low, and it's even actually on cable, which I think is kind of funny that it's on cable TV. But I really enjoy this show. You probably heard people talking about how good this show is, and it is. Now, I should say this, the show is very boring. If you want to go and watch this show, don't expect it to be like The Mandalorian or one of the films. It's not going to be fast-paced with action every episode. That's not the case. This is a very slow, dialogue-driven show. And those two things should not mix, but they do. Dialogue in Star Wars has not always been the greatest, and this show kind of breaks the mold. I think this show works very well. But like I said, I enjoy this show, and it's not for everyone. Like I said, this show is very slow, it's very boring, and it's only action every three episodes, so which kind of sucks, but that's kind of how the show works, and that's the way it is. But with that being said, is very mature, very adult, and it's one of those shows where kids shouldn't watch it per se because they're fucking bored by it. And this show is meant for adults. Like, I'm in the right age gap to watch this show, to enjoy it. This show works like a puzzle, where you have all these different pieces that are all moving around. You can't watch, like, the second arc of the show, then watch the first one. That won't work. Because the main arc with Cassian Andor is the main thing of those 3 episodes, which there's only 3 of, but, well, technically it's like 4 arcs, but one's like 2-parter, so that involves Cassian Andor, the main arc, whatever he's going through, but there's like all these different side things going on. There's like 5 or 7 different side things going on that involve different characters spanning across the galaxy, that with a lot of scenes that don't really add up until a future episode, which that is a complaint that I have. Maybe you don't have random scenes that do literally nothing for the episode. You know, when you take screen time and you dedicate to something and it leads to nothing in that episode, it's just why put it there. I know it's setting up stuff for future episodes, but at the same time, maybe have that set up in the episode that's supposed to be set up in, because there's a lot of random scenes that happen that don't involve Cassian Andor, that are about another character. You know, I'm not gonna say specifics because it happens all the time, and it's just random for the sake of being random. And it does that, like I said, for your future episode, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, it's just a random mistake of random, and I didn't like that. But that's the only nitpick I really have with this show. But there is a lot of production value in this. All the sets, all the acting, all the CGI, everything's just top notch. Everything is just insanely good. And I wonder if for Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett, they just didn't put money in it because they're putting all the money into Andor. And I know you're saying, why does this random character from one film get more, like, production value and better, you know, more episodes, there's more everything, rather than Obi-Wan Kenobi or Boba Fett? You know, it's like they kind of got the short end of the stick while Andor got the better part of the deal. And I don't know what to tell you, blame it on Disney, but I'm not complaining, because Andor is surprisingly really good, and isn't what, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett are. There's a lot of people that don't like the Disney live-action Star Wars shows. I get it. I like them personally, but I get it. They're kind of tough to get through sometimes. I know the Book of Boba Fett sucks. I know it's not the show that we wanted. But with Andor, it is a show that we wanted. Just, we didn't know that we wanted it until it came out. And I've seen people who just are not going to be wanting to go into it because they just don't want to be disappointed, but you're not going to be disappointed with this show. I'm going to tell you that it is a slow burn. It's going to take you like a couple days. You should not binge watch this because it is so boring, but it is still good. It's just watch it in little intervals. That's all I'm saying, because you're going to be bored if you try to binge watch the entirety of the 12 episodes of this entire season. So, just an FYI. I enjoy how Andor does not try to be like the other Star Wars shows. I really have to say that, because this is different from anything that I've ever seen in the franchise before. And I rank pretty much everything, and this is very different from everything else, which I'm so happy about. And that could be because highlights of this show, which involve action, are so far and few between. So when action does occur, when blasters are drawn and being fired, it is so satisfying and so chaotic and so much fun that, like I said, they become the highlights of the show, because you spend so much time with these characters just talking and building up the rebellion, like all these different plot points that you don't think will go anywhere, but it does go somewhere, and it kind of like combines into this very action-packed finale. And, people are gonna say, oh, this show sucks, it's very boring, and I get it. The show, like I said, is boring, but it is worth it. It is worth it at the end of the day. And when it goes to lore, it adds a lot to the Rebellion. The Rebellion is pretty much the biggest character in the show, even though it's not an actual person. It's still the birth of the Rebellion happened in this show. You see the seeds being sprung, and you get to see how the Empire starts to fall, even though it's years before the original trilogy starts. And just seeing how that happened, how some of the people in the Rebellion are very different in this show, like Mon Mothma, who's very different, not the leader just yet. You have people like Lucen, who is very rough, who is not what you would think as like a rebel soldier or leader. Then you have Cassian Andor, who is out for only himself, but by the end of the season he does realize the Empire is bad, and he does fight for other people, even though it doesn't seem like he will become the leader or kind of the big dude that will lead the Battle of Scarif. He is getting there. It takes a lot of character development. There's a lot of character development for Cassian Andor and like all these different characters that who knows what happens to them, because a lot of characters that don't appear in Rogue One kind of question where do they go. We'll find out in season 2, I guess, in a very long time. But I do like how this show created the Rebellion. We get to see the different perspectives, and that kind of started with Rogue One. You get to see the dark side of the Rebellion. You get to see that not everyone who joined it is a goody two-shoes who is good all the way. Like, some people aren't good all the way. Some people are doing freedom and fighting the Empire for reasons that are selfish, for their own personal gain. And you kind of have to figure out who's in it for the right reasons, who's in it for the wrong reasons. Palpatine did not show up in the show, which I kind of predicted that he would, but he was name dropped a lot. But when it goes to how the Empire functions, they're very operational, and when you watch a show like Rebels, you kind of, in my back of my mind now, I'm thinking, yeah, the ISB is probably looking at all the charges that Kanan and Ezra did in the Ghost Crew throughout the many years that they have been fighting the Empire. Like, you get the different perspective of the Empire now in all these different Star Wars shows. And that's the thing, I like how the show does a bunch of world building. It takes their time to show us this world and a different side of it that you don't get to see a lot. You get to see the side characters. That's the main thing I want to talk about, is the side characters. That's the main thing that Andor does, is that it's pretty much the side character show. You get to see all the different side characters. And, in any other Star Wars media, they'll just be background characters. Maybe they'll have a line of dialogue. But no, these background characters, get entire scenes dedicated to them, and we get to see the people of Cassian Andor's town on Ferrix, the prisoners in Narkina 5, You get to learn each member of the Aldani heist. You know, you get to learn all these different people, what they stand for, if they're good, if they're bad, and you care about them, and you care about what happens to them. And by the end of the show, you're going to care about these characters, which is a really good sign of good writing. With all that being said, where do I put this in my rankings then? Andor Season 1 goes above Tales of a Jedi, but below the entirety of Rebels. Yes, it is that good. And I'm not putting it above, the top of Star Wars. Like, it is really good. And even though I'm not going to see Andor all the way through again in a very long time, it's still a really good show to rewatch in bulks. Andor is going, where it is, and I like that. Do you agree or disagree with what I have to say? Because a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Andor right now. I mean, it's literally being put on cable TV. I looked at my channel guide, and I saw Andor on the channel guide, like, late at night, like at 9 o'clock at night. Like, what the hell? Why is this on cable? I pay for Disney Plus. Why is this on cable TV? But it's whatever. More people should watch it, and hopefully my video inspired you to go check out Andor, because I know it's not for everyone. It's one of those shows that's very niche in the Star Wars community. I know it's not mainstream like the Obi-Wan show is or Mandalorian, but it's a pretty good show, and to expand your horizon, try something new, it's worth it. So I'm gonna go now. If you guys enjoyed this, and hit the like button and subscribe. I'm going, so goodbye everyone.